Hi, I'm Jon Tsourakis with the Digital Mastermind. You're listening to The Climb. This is where agency owners and leaders tune in to get growth tips and strategies for growing their businesses. Buddy, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Climb, episode 15. Today we have Brad Ebenhoeh, and we're going to speak about how to get out of this, and how to future-proof your agency. So if this does happen again, you're well prepared. So, Dave, when I say future-proofing and how to get out of this, what comes to mind for you, buddy?
I mean, I just instantly am taken back to 2008 and the lessons we learned from that. And if you didn't learn those lessons, you're probably reliving them today, right? So
nobody learns, though.
Let's roll back and let's practice everything we went through then. And let's talk about today how we can make sure that, in 2028, when we have to go through this again, we're prepared.
Yeah, but I think it's a personality, and I don't want to sound negative on it, but I think it's a personality where people don't prepare for this type of thing, where there's a certain fear associated with it. Maybe not. I read an article that was the other day talking about how later millennials are in the worst mental situation because they're, as soon as they graduate, high school, they had 9/11, right? As soon as they graduate, college, and they really get into the workforce, then the 2008 crisis happens. And then now after they've recovered, then this is essentially happening where they potentially bought their first home because they were later to buy their homes. So there's like all that scar tissue. But when I hear that, at what point?
Millennials the problem?
No.
Are they causing all this?
I think the issue that I'm hearing, though, is like, okay, there's three things that have happened. How have you not been granted, those are strikes against you, and it's not easy. Those are challenges and obstacles. But how have you not learned you need to hoard as much cash as you possibly can?
I think the big key from 2008 was that, you can't be leveraged to the hill. You can't be in that much debt. So I do think I see some positive, indicators in society that the average family is not holding as much bad debt. I mean, we have to distinguish between good debt and bad debt. A mortgage is not bad debt, or at least not a jumbo loan. And the average American family's, debt has gone down. So I think we're going to be more resilient this time because of that. 2008, there was a ton of people out of jobs too. I mean, everybody's talking about the unemployment numbers today, where we I think it had 6 million unemployment?
Yeah, 6 million.
In 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I mean, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But 2008 also had 6 million unemployment spread out over a longer amount, of time.
Yeah, but this is all, so right now it's 10 years of job growth decimated in 1 month.
But I also think because it happened so fast in 1 month that it's also going to come back much faster than 2008, where after 2008, we had to wait. It took 11 years I bought my first home in 2007. And I remember thinking when that first dip happened, I was like, this is our chance. We got to buy this house right now. We got to take advantage of this dip. Woo! Was I wrong? So it took 11 years for that home to get back to the value I purchased it at. And, that's just what we, had to do to make that work. I mean, I bought a home, not an investment, but it was about a decade of recovery. We were Jacksonville was stagnant for 10 years.
Yeah, not the Tampa Bay area where I'm at, that's for sure. It climbed back pretty quick. I'd say probably 3 to 4 years. It started getting bonkers, but there was some gnarly deals out there for sure. But to the point there, so it sounds like there was an infrastructure that dropped out in 2008, which created a glut, right? Especially in the real estate market. It seems like every time I went out for a cocktail, I'd run into people and they were either a mortgage broker or a realtor.
Right.
And I just didn't even understand like how a market could sustain so many people. It just seemed like it was
an entire industry based on debt and credit.
Right. Yeah. And in this scenario, you're right. I think there are some differences where it's affecting retail just because things are locked up and closed down.
Correct.
And that's why a lot of people are projecting wild Q3 numbers, because people are going to go bananas and bonkers as soon as they can actually get out of their house and spend some money. Disney's probably, Disney World and theme parks are probably going to see record numbers as well on account of that.
I came up with a pretty wild conspiracy theory, and there's plenty of them out there. But
sure are. All right, let me get my tinfoil hat. Hold on. Go ahead.
I mean, one of the biggest beneficiaries of this is Amazon. They are crushing. I mean, this could be like the final blow to the mom and pop retail store ever, and just completely wipe them out. Meanwhile, they've got a media in the Washington Post that Bezos owns as well, making a mint off covering all this. I mean, I could foresee, I thought of a couple scenarios. I could see, wouldn't it be crazy if the government instituted a essential shipping list where only certain types of products during a time like this get denoted as essential, and only the Amazon and post office are allowed to deliver essential products. And then that got me down the road. I'm like, man, Amazon is, because I just watched one of their commercials where it was like one of those feel good pieces about how
we care,
and we're trying hard to deliver everything. They're gonna make a mint. And while every mom and pop that's been struggling to compete with Amazon just got obliterated, and Amazon didn't affect Amazon one bit. If anything, it bumped them up 20%.
Yeah, I just think they have a solid business model, and they're, no matter what happens, unless the mail becomes, I don't even know what could happen to them, right? So we find out the mail is involved with the mafia or something, and they're carting drugs everywhere, so we'd have to shut that down. Unless logistics were affected, I can't see anything negative happening based on Amazon's model.
Well, I do believe if you've been watching the press conferences, President Trump was challenged with why didn't the funding bill save the post office? And that's been a running issue for a couple of years now, is that the post office is just running at a loss. So it's, but, and he stated, every time they deliver a package, they lose money. Like, the more they do what their job is, the more money they lose. And so, I think Amazon sees the writing on the wall, which is why they started their own logistics and shipping, delivery trucks. Because when the post office really prices it appropriately, all the companies, all the e-commerce that rely on that is going to take a hit.
Yeah, but I think that was one of many factors. I know we're getting on a little bit of a tangent here, but UPS too, right? So they wanted to make sure that they weren't being leveraged by them. And either way, the way that that moves, they're covered in almost any scenario, right? That occurs. It reminds me though, when everybody used to tout Walmart as being this amazing, great company, and it's never going to fail. What started to kill Walmart was from the inside, the culture, the types of people that they hired, all that started exposing, and people are like, ew, that's gross. That's the similar problem that would have to occur. Yeah, you see, exactly. You hate Walmart for probably all those reasons. But Walmart is Amazon. There's really no difference there.
There isn't.
Yeah. So a similar problem would, I don't think we should have a lack of imagination, is going to attack Amazon, and somebody else is going to be able to eat up some market share on account of that.
Yeah, of course. That's the same. I've been saying that about Google and Facebook. Everyone assumes these companies are...
Don't be evil.
Well, they
get rid of that tagline.
They assume that they're going to be around forever. Well, 20 years ago, everybody was, at the end of every commercial, you heard AOL keyword, cars. AOL's completely gone. They dominated the internet in the late 90s. Dominated, just like Google, completely gone. So
I think Google has some deeper inroads into, for instance, they have a generic term. I don't know of any brand that has gone away that has a generic term for something. Google
sounds accepted. I will think of one. I don't have one off the top of my head right now, but I will think of one.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, enter it into our lifeline. Into this. All right, so let's go ahead and welcome our guest on the show with speaking about how to future-proof your business and be more like Amazon.
Yeah,
Brad, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, John. Hey, David. Really looking forward to the next hour or 30 or 45 minutes, however this long lasts.
You don't sound serious, but let's go ahead and get this started. All right. So before we get into everything, I'd like to give people an overview of your climb. This is essentially, where you've been and how you got here, right?
Yep.
Feel free to add anything if you feel it's necessary. You're from Michigan. Also a Spartan, went to Michigan State where you graduated with an accounting degree. You got a bachelor's in it as well as a master's. Right out of school, you started at PricewaterhouseCoopers. I think that's before they started calling it PwC. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
You were there for almost 4 years where you did a myriad of accounting-related things. Then you had a couple of other gigs that obviously didn't fit your fancy, kind of like a millennial. You jumped around a little bit. And then you started Accountfully in 2012, a company that specializes in accounting, bookkeeping, and CFO services for creatives, including agencies and freelancers. And you do all this from beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, with a team of 28.
33 or 34 now. So
33 or 34 now. All right. Good for you. You're growing. I'm happy to hear that. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I would, that was a really good high level. I guess a couple things of why I guess Accountfully was launched or what the basis behind it was. So working at PwC, by the way, I don't know if I'm a millennial. I'm on the upper edge. So like,
what year were you born?
83.
83. You're on the upper edge. You're a millennial. Yeah.
79 is the cutoff. So.
Just paused on your face.
Anyways, can you guys hear?
Now we can. Yeah.
Anyways, all right. So the basis behind Accountfully, essentially working at PwC in the corporate accounting world, you're just doing these random things and you're not really understanding how a business runs. You're just doing, supporting audits, doing some audits around systems and processes. I was actually getting into the SAP implementation and kind of consulting arm of PwC, traveling a lot, right? So it's very high level. You don't see how it impacts, business at a minutia, at a day-to-day level, right? When I decided to quit because I was just over that world, moved down to Charlotte and had a couple of jobs with small business and family wine companies that, a couple million, $2, $3, $4 million in revenue across the families. Well, I was basically their kind of first in-house accountant or controller that came on board, right? So I literally was like, okay, what are payroll taxes? What's owed? Like, hey, how do we manage cash? Oh, we need to buy inventory. What does that look like? Oh, what are my margins by customer, by sales channel? How much inventory do I have? The stuff that all small businesses have to deal with and sweat, right? Hey, tax returns, how much taxes are owed, estimated quarterly payments, things like that. So essentially, I went from corporate world to small business world, two completely different experiences. But I saw that there was a need. I guess I saw that. Keep moving forward. Moved down to Charleston, which is where I'm at right now and love it, and started my own thing. But I was consulting still for the family of wine companies in the same role. But as I was getting the entrepreneurial itch, I was basically, and my wife was my business partner. We both moved down here, didn't know anybody. And then we started doing, we were in our upper 20s, started networking with various people in business and doing all the networking events, that are out there. And we realized that what we were saying is that, hey, we do consulting, we do accounting, and everybody's like, oh, that's great. Like, I'm an accountant that does taxes, or I have an in-house bookkeeper, right? Or they do it themselves, right? So along the way, I was like kind of thinking that there's got to be some sort of better way to do this in relation to being like a bookkeeper, as well as provide some limited kind of advisory service along the way. And so that's kind of where the gist of Accountfully was born. And how I did it is my background at PwC was I was in the systems and process kind of function of the business. So my mind works very process oriented, systems, sharing data, et cetera. So it was perfect time when all these software as a service applications were coming out. QuickBooks Online just launched, Bill.com just launched, things like that. That kind of, I was like, oh, this is how we can kind of piece data, share data, integrate, automate some of the functions, right? Right when the 4-hour work week was coming out, blanking on his name by
Tim Ferriss,
right? Like, hey, automate everything and work 4 hours a week, which obviously we know that that's not possible. But
right.
Anyways,
I think he would admit to that now.
Correct. So anyways, basically kind of merging both of those small business experience, day-to-day understanding kind of the processes, and then leveraging my systems and process background. We're like, hey, let's create this cool little thing, right? And it essentially it is a mix of we basically are your outsourced accounting department, where we are your bookkeeper, your controller, and your CFO in one. And we basically support clients all across the nation. And we basically are your accounting department and do everything you need. And some clients have limited advisory, some clients have more advisory. Obviously, all clients have bookkeeping in relation to paying bills, processing payroll, updating the books and records, and things like that. So just a little more background of how we got here.
Got it. It's the longest elevator speech I think I've ever heard, but I think it was thorough, and I appreciate you giving it to us.
I didn't know there was a time limit.
No, I'm just kidding. It was good. All right. So everyone has tools to support them in their climb. So are you iPhone, Android, like PC, Mac? What are you?
iPhone and Mac. 100% Apple, everything. Can't stand Android text and the
green. When you see the green, you're just like, ew.
Thumbs up, yeah, I don't like the green.
Got it. We lost you there. You said something about a thumbs up, and then you're.
Oh no, the thumbs up. Where basically then like it says if you're on an Android chain, it then says, "Hey, Brad Ebenhoeh said thumbs up" or something.
Oh right, yeah.
It's like okay, clearly. But anyways.
Microsoft was built for spreadsheets. I mean, the whole company comes from doing accounting quick. Like how have you not, you should feel a little like,
hey, I'm not the typical accountant. Come on, look at
me. Touche, man. All right, so email, you Outlook, Gmail, something else?
Gmail. So we are G Suite. And basically versus we essentially put everybody on Google Sheets, right? So we could use Excel, but 90% of what we do is Google Sheets, 100% cloud-based, like that, just automation efficiency was quick and easy to do. Note-taking,
Evernote, Google Docs, OneNote?
My brain. I don't take notes.
Wow.
So interesting.
Really? You don't take, hold on. I can't let that one, I can't step over that.
You're joking. Not okay. No, I don't use any of the systems. I'll take random kind of notes within Slack to myself. I very rarely, I've probably been on the same notebook for like 3 years. Notes, the majority of notes I do are client call, like I do the sales and stuff. So I'll have notes in HubSpot. Besides that, it's just random like things, I guess, in Slack to myself. So I used to do Evernote, but
so are we witnessing a trend here? Because I mean, I feel like everyone we ask that question to, nobody's using any kind of organized note-taking.
Not anymore. I'm like I think I'm one of the last holdouts on Evernote.
Well,
yeah. Our team basically, it's interesting because our team does a myriad, right? You have people who do paper, people who do Evernote, people who literally open up an Excel sheet and have different tabs for all clients or different functions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like whatever works for you. So
I dig it. And last question, what's the most used app on your phone?
Twitter or email.
Twitter or email. All right. So talk to me about loans, the PPL, EIDL. When are we going to get our money, Brad?
I wish I had some concrete answers. So basically the PPP, from what I've seen and heard from some other accountants or accounting kind of groups that I follow on Facebook or LinkedIn, supposedly some small businesses have received PPP loans. The bankers that I'm talking to locally here that I've had relationships with are basically have already processed a lot, approved, went through theirs. It's already in the SBA queue and ready to go. It's just that they are waiting for the actual SBA official loan document that we'll all sign, right? Of saying, hey, I'm taking this money. It's 1% for 2 years. The bank's going to use it. A lot of banks are waiting for that, whereas but guidance came out the other day that banks can use their own documents if they want. So some of them have done that. I'm probably thinking that a lot of banks are going to use the standard documentation for sake of simplicity, plus having all the legal documentation in there because it is going to be 100% backed by the SBA. That's what I'd be doing if I was those banks. So this is the update I got like Monday or Tuesday, today's Thursday. So I would assume it should be coming out soon. Once that's submitted, then a lot of these banks are going to have everybody sign them. That's already been approved and everything. And after that, it's funding, right? And then from the guidance that came out 2 days ago, it actually did say that loans will be funded within 10 days of approval. So that's that.
Got it. So today is today is Thursday, April 9th, 2020, year of our Lord, just for our listeners.
But I mean, yes. Really, it comes down to this started 4 weeks ago if we're talking about a timeline. The crisis was 4 weeks ago.
But April 3rd is when they approved it.
Correct. But I'm just, in talking about the reality of the situation, we're talking month and a half, 2 months before, what business can survive a 70% cut in revenue for 2 months? Not many.
Well, that's when you have to leverage, I mean, a couple things, right? You have to leverage unemployment, right? Hey, get furlough, lay off your workers, let them go and get money from the government that everybody's paying in. The federal government stimulus is going to back a lot of that. So typically your unemployment percentages would go up or increase, right? At the client level, I don't expect that to happen. Outside of that, this goes back to running your business properly, right? Like having a couple months cash in hand, or having a line of credit that's unused, or having open balances on credit cards, right? And kind of managing, it's, what happens personally, everybody tells you should have a month or two of rainy day fund, right? Well, a month or two of business rainy day fund, so,
do you see that with a lot of your clients, a month or two of rainy day fund?
It depends. It's across the board. Some have a ton, some, are week to week, and it depending upon when people pay you.
Is there a pattern there that you've noticed?
Industry specific?
It's not really. Well, if you're 100%, it depends, right? Because it is industry specific. Because we have a lot of clients that have raised money, from private equity companies, VCs, and they have 12, 24 months, right? You have clients that are, event-based companies that are putting on events and have a couple of hotspots, March, April, May, and then September, October, November, where it's seasonal more, right? And things like that. So it depends depends by business, right? And industry, at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing is some people just, literally it's mind-boggling to be the amount of people that I've seen who come and work with us are like, yeah, I haven't sent out my invoices in a couple of weeks. I know I got to do it. I just don't have time to do it. And I'm like, do you understand the reason you're in business is to receive money? That's how you receive money. So that should be your priority. So sometimes it's just pure broken systems, right? So.
Or non-existent system. That's
well, yeah, true.
That's insane.
Who does the invoicing for you guys? I'm assuming David.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably good. It's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that little left-handed compliment. The what's the latest someone can file for this?
End of June is what they're saying, but you mean for the PPP, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, end of June. With that being said, it depends upon, a lot of people are freaked out about the funding and everything like that.
250 short, right? 250 billion short or 300
supposedly, and I guess they were going to increase it by 200 billion or something yesterday or today, and then the Democrats have said pause because we think we need more. So if they don't fund everybody that is small business, this is going to be even bonkers, right? If you don't get it in by June 30th, I understand it, but you got to fund people at least the first month of people who are literally doing it. Some banks literally just didn't open up their applications at all till Tuesday. And it's so you're 2 days behind because they didn't, the bank was kind of taking their time and ensuring that they had in place. So are they just going to get nothing?
Are you familiar with the Wells Fargo problem going on right now where I guess they shut down, they're not accepting any more applications only because they accepted so many. And I guess the government regulation says that each major bank can only do so much. At least that's the defense I'm hearing from them. But a lot of people are pissed off at them right now.
Yeah, no, it's yesterday they sent out a link. Somebody in my team shared us that said that they removed the cap from Wells Fargo, so they were accepting them again, or they were going to open up their application process at some point. Yeah, when I talked to a colleague a couple of weeks ago, she mentioned, she's like, we don't, this is right when it was passed, and it's like, we don't know how it's going to run. We don't know if they're going to allocate. Hey, Bank of America gets X number, Wells Fargo gets X number, regional banks get X number, So I think they're trying to figure this out. They're pushing this out to, this program out to millions of people with billions of dollars. It's not going to be done right. First of all, we know governments don't do anything right or efficient. So how do, even if it was a private business, it would, trying to push through 2-3 weeks is pretty much impossible. So hopefully it's getting there along the way. And hopefully there's funding for everybody that needs it, right? The whole point is keeping the lights on and keeping your people paid the next 8 weeks, next 2 months of uncertainty. And a lot of clients, some people are like, well, I'm okay. And it's like, yeah, but do you know what's going to happen the next 2 months if the company or the country shut down again for 2 months or 2 more months? That's a completely different situation than if it's just shut down, the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, right? So you have to take care of your business. You have to take care of your employees. You have to be forward thinking. You have to know what's going on
for what you don't know.
That's determines uncertainty. Exactly. So like, that's where you need to protect your business. You know, you can't, if there's programs, opportunities for you to take advantage of them. You know, don't be fraudulent, you know, but
I've
again,
talked to
like,
companies though that they're just not even interested. Like, oh, we're fine. We're not going to need it. And there is no downside to taking this money, right?
no, it's
Yeah.
literally, if you take the money and you don't want to use it, just pay it back. And you maybe incur a 1 month of 1% of interest. Like, you know, like if you want to get in, just pay it back. Right. Or if you go and apply and you don't need to sign the documents, right? Like, they're not going to give you money until you sign the documents. So you can kind of go through and figure that out. But, you know, a lot of my clients and colleagues are like, well, I don't want to have any more debt. I'm like, there's no upfront fees. This is 1% interest. Like, there's impossible to get any cheaper of money outside of, you know, your parents giving you some money, you know, here and there, right? Like,
We have different parents.
okay, well, when you were 10.
Not even then I had to work for it, man. I got some horror stories. We're not going to get into that, bro.
So, I mean, if you are, you know, 2.5 times average monthly, you get 150 grand. All of a sudden you use it, you maybe cut your workforce down 60%. You know, you maybe we're in a WeWork space, you went out, you all work from home. So you know, you only get, you know, forgiven 60 grand. Well, the balance is a 2-year loan at 1%. It's like not that much interest. And understanding that and managing your business, again, it's a rainy day fund, you know, cushion along the way of uncertainty.
But you're never going to get that interest rate anywhere else, right?
No.
Yeah. So yeah, it's
negative.
Not that it's not that bad. It's like, this is unbelievable because no one else is going to give it to you.
You could literally put that money in a high yield savings account and earn more than 1%.
Correct. Or you can pay off higher debt credit cards, right? You know, like, you know, that's the point of, or not, that's not the point of it, but clearly that's going to be used. Like, you know, everybody commingles their money. Not everybody. A lot of people commingle their money. You know, who am I to pay here? I'm going to pay here. Obviously, the goal is to keep people employed, but once the money comes in and it's 4 weeks down the road, we still don't have any certainty. And what are people going to do? They're, you know, they don't know what their business is going to do. They're going to lay more people off, and then they're going to use that money for different situations. Again, just understanding the options and realizing, hey, if it's 1% for 2 years, I'm not going to get it all forgiven. Then you need to manage your business and make sure that you have enough money to pay it back over 24 months. That's the point of it. So,
is there any way to fast track this?
No.
Because it seems like all the banks are doing it differently. Some are asking for driver's licenses. Some are saying greater than 20% owners. Some are saying at 20% owners. Some are saying all owners. So it just seems like everybody's scrambling and playing, you know, whatever game they can to make sure they get the applications in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think by next week we'll have, I mean, we've already, like, the guidance that came out the other day was clear on, like, the question about how do you handle $100,000 of max per employee? Is that just wages? Can benefits go above that? Which is basically what they said. They said benefits can go above that. That's just your wages. Additionally, they said some people were saying federal taxes should be the employees, federal taxes that are withheld from the employee, the withholding and FICA should have been excluded, which doesn't make any sense because the employer still has to pay gross wages.
Right.
So they basically came back and said, those should not be excluded. Those should be part of the calculation. So those are kind of two of the biggest open items that should help clear up some of the questions that people had. But on top of that, they said a week before, no 1099 contractors, because 1099 contractors can pay or can file themselves. I still see bank applications like today that still say send over your 1099s, and I'm just like simplify the form, simplify the process. If somebody literally is asking for $25,000 to cover payroll for the next 2 months, like, do you really need everything? And, you know, you need their 75 tax returns, their personal financial statement. Like, just what is your 2.5 months data? Let's look at it. Look at your federal forms. Let me see your calculation. Get the application. Boom, go. Right. So I think the way it works is a bank should segregate kind of levels of requirement, levels of due diligence, you know, that type of stuff. If you're asking for $1 million, that's different than asking for $20,000. That's the way I think it's going to be fast tracked. But, you know, again, it's by bank, right? Like, in some banks, you know, I mean, their online banking portal, some of these banks are ridiculous. It's from 1990s.
Yeah, and a lot of them are like partnered with companies like Lendio and some of the others because they just don't even have the wherewithal, which I think is smart. If you don't, you know, have any way to execute it, then you need to partner with somebody else that
100%, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I saw even like payroll providers starting to partner with, you know, banks and stuff to kind of funnel them through that. So, I mean, this is a huge opportunity for banks. As much as some bankers are saying, hey, we're overwhelmed. This is too much for us. We're not going to make any money off this. Like, I get it. But at the same time, if you're doing it right and you're like a regional bank or a local bank, people are going to be flocking away from Bank of America, away from Wells Fargo. They're going to be like, screw this. And then those people can come and open up businesses as small regional banks that can maybe they can get that personal relationship with. I think that's really the key is you need to get a personal relationship with a banker at a smaller company or smaller bank, because they're the ones that are actually going to be on your side versus being like, I don't know what's going on with Wells Fargo. Well, do you know anybody there? No. And it's designed not to know anybody. So getting
what are
that
the benefits of a personal banker? Okay.
What's that?
What are the benefits of a personal banker?
Other
than sporting tickets and event tickets.
Just being on the front lines when opportunities like this come up, because you can call him or her, you can email, hey, what's going on with the PPP loan? Oh, by the way, hey, we just got an update. We're sending that out tonight. You'll see an email tonight. Just so you're clear and visible of what's going on and understanding the process. Hey, did you get my loan? Yeah. Hey, email me directly. I'll make sure it gets into the queue, right? Versus uploading to your portal. Like that type of stuff. And clearly then everything else, right? Like, hey, I need a mortgage. I need a home equity line. I need this. It's just somebody to bounce it off. It's just like having an advisor, a marketing advisor or something like that, where, yeah, it'd be great just to bounce a couple questions off. The amount of time and energy that you may spend will be super minimal. But when emergencies arise, it's great to have somebody to talk to about it, especially with the stress level of the situation right now, right? I mean, I think
victims group.
Exactly. And I think one good takeaway from this for people can be bank with multiple banks moving forward, right? So keep your Wells Fargo bank account, but put $500 in it. Open up a bank in a smaller regional bank or a local bank or a credit union. Have them both because you're a customer of both. So when situations like this come up, you can be like, all right, which way do I want to go? Well, Wells Fargo isn't listening to me. I'm going to go over here. Or maybe
do they really want to hear from the guy that's got 500 in his bank account? I mean,
but you're a customer. You're a customer, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of more like you can.
At that point, it's like, dude, I want to give you $500 in my bank account, and then I can become a customer.
Well, but some of the stuff is you need to be a customer by February 15th of 2020, and it's April, so you can't backtrack it. It's about doing it, and then but Wells Fargo can then have a great opportunity for customers for a 0% credit card, it's just opportunities, right? Like, I mean, I bank with one people or one company or one banker, one bank. Sorry, guys. And, but it's not a big bank because I hate big banks. So,
how big of a bank should somebody bank with?
It's personal preference, right? So some of the smaller banks don't have, it's location based. They don't have great functionality of mobile banking or online banking or things like that. But if they're able to get you a $250,000 loan for your business and nobody else can, guess what? That's where you're going to bank because they want your deposit money, right? So at the end of the day, a lot of it doesn't matter on typical a day-to-day basis because so much is automated already. Mobile checks, if you can deposit checks mobily for a business owner, make sure it has the functionality to do that, right? So I
switched to a local credit union, probably like 3 years into business. I wanted to support the local community. Went to the ATM to activate my credit card and realized it was like an old dot matrix ATM interface. Walked right back in the bank and said, this is not going to work for me. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. I went right back to Bank of America. I needed that. That technology.
No, I think there's that middle market is where, we hang out. I don't like the local ones. You'll see somebody, popping up down the road. You're like, that has no, I'm not dealing with that. And then we see all of our clients when we're updating their books, some of them have these banks and you're like, this doesn't connect to QuickBooks. We can't see check images to do our job. It's like, it's horrible in that aspect. So,
right.
So a regional bank you think is a better fit?
Yeah. I like regional banks.
Okay. And have you seen, based on your client base, or people that made some big moves right before this and didn't have enough cash on hand and now they're freaking out a bit?
Yes. Some clients, inventory-based clients that were launching a new product line. I mean, huge clientele or a huge aspect of our business is natural food and drink. Mm-hmm. So if you go to Whole Foods, like those brands that you buy or, beef jerky, ice cream, the things like that, we have a lot of those clientele or clients across the nation. Well, the biggest natural food trade show is Expo West, which is in Anaheim, California, like the first week in March. So that was right when this was going on. They basically sent an email out to the week saying, this is still going on. Everybody pushed back saying, are you kidding me? So they canceled it. Well, everybody basically launches new labels, new branding, new SKUs, new product lines, etc. as part of that. Plus, on top of that, it is a $30,000 trade show to get a booth, to get your signage. Like, those are the ones that are like just freaking out, because it's like, great, then, you know, that's where you go meet buyers at Whole Foods. That's where you go meet, you know, your partners, VCs raising money. Like, that was just horrible timing for them. If it was a week later, you know, we all could have went and it would have been great, right? And they could have identified a lot of that stuff. Outside of that, some tech startup clients that are raising money, literally in the middle of raising. I just got the phone with a client about the PPP loan application he was talking about, but he's like, literally, we were just, one of the guys that was going to give us money was basically, we were in the middle of contract signing and get ready to like wire the money over the next day. He ended up got the virus. He's okay now, but literally paused like that situation, as well as like now the guy's like reassessing.
Yeah, like maybe this is a sign.
Yeah, he's like reassessing his decisions. He's like, maybe like I shouldn't be investing in, you know, high risk, you know, situations. Maybe I should just relax my life, you know, like, so like, it's just, as you guys know, like personal situations or personal crisis change people. So those are a couple of situations I've seen. Outside of that, event companies are crushed. Like we have a decent chunk of event companies. They just crush. No events going on, right? Charleston, wedding galore in the spring, you know, big parties, nothing. So a ton of people are, you know, obviously in restaurants and bars, you know, and all that stuff. So
that impact, I think, is going to last, you know, way beyond. Like we're talking, you know, 12 to 18 months for an event venue.
100%. I mean, you know, they're already relatively month to month, right? So you do this, and obviously there's different factors of getting the PPP loan or the EIDL loan or stimulus checks that can help kind of, you know, navigate you. But I mean, it's, you know, this is literally, the unemployment rate is massive, but there's really nothing to compare it to even in history, because literally everything is closed. So it's a different unemployment. It's not like unemployment because businesses are kind of not doing well. It's literally, you can't open your doors, all restaurants and bars. So what do you got to do? You have to lay everybody off within a day, in a week, right? So it's a little bit different, but I mean, are you kidding me? You can't just do this for 3, 4, 5 weeks, 2 months and expect it just to go back like that. So,
but the market is showing signs of getting better though, right? I mean, the last few days we've been seeing some positive signs. How do you feel about that?
I don't really follow the market, to be frank.
Okay.
I mean, obviously it says things like that. I just don't think it's a reflection of like the individual, right? Of the small business.
Yeah, because if you have a client that's an event planner, an event company, and they're crying to you on the phone, you know, you have multiple. I mean, that's the landscape that you're looking into. Correct.
And the market's, you know, a bunch of computers trading, and it is what it is, right? Based upon, hey, we think we're going back. Obviously, we want the market to do well and go up, but I don't base decisions upon that.
So let's say that somebody, in any scenario, right? It'll go to the future proofing side of this. Some of the people that were getting cash poor, if you're going to make a big move, an acquisition or some type of investment, is it just the rule of thumb, a month or 2 months cash flow and you should be fine? Or is there some other rule that business owners should look at?
You mean if you're going to like buy something?
If you're going to either buy something, if you're going to make a big move, do you still just, all right, we got to make sure we have our month to 2 months?
I mean, yeah, first off, if you're gonna make a big move, you clearly need to be smart about it. You need to have some sort of cushion available in case something happens. So first off, if you're gonna be buying something, or if you're gonna be acquiring something or partnering because you see like a huge opportunity right now, step one is, in the past, it should have been, hey, my business is doing well. I should get a business loan and or a line of credit available to have just in case, right? I need to get credit card and make sure my balance is high enough just in case, right? Pay it off, but you just have it available as a rainy day. Your rainy day fund does not need to be 100% cash. It can be, you know, home equity line. It can be a business line of credit, right? Something that you can lean on during tough times to get you through that. So that's kind of step one. Step two is literally, if anybody's ever merged with you guys have, like, it doesn't just work like that in a day. Like, it's 2, 3, 4, 5 months of getting efficiencies, understanding how to work together. You know, sometimes you then, you know, get a different person on a client or on your client, you know, David's client, then all of a sudden John's team member gets on it. They're like, This isn't the way it used to be. See ya. Like there's going to be some churn on the client side and
the other way
side.
around.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah.
But you know how it is. So it's going to be a 90 to 120 day period of where you're not going to be as profitable. So like if you're going to do something like that, you need to make sure you're squared away for 6 to 9 to 12 months.
Sure.
Because of the synergies that it takes time to do and all that stuff, unless you're purely a complement and literally it works, seamlessly, which I've never seen, just because of the way, how do you track time? How do you bill? Just even things like that. What is your culture?
Certainly had Q1 was all that is new process, new tools, new reporting, new, who do you report to? What am I judged by? What are my metrics? Like I just knew everything, but
correct.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty smooth after that.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
How about our agency's books in general, though? I mean, I've spoke with some and just know some agency owners. They're successful despite themselves. Like I have no idea how they're even in business, and these are some agencies that have more than 20 employees. Well,
running a service-based business is not that hard in relation to running an inventory-based business. Even though billable hours are inventory, right? But hey, I'm going to go out and sell some work. I'm going to get some retainers. I know I'm bringing in 20 grand a month. My rent's this. I need this. It's backing it out isn't that much of a rocket science aspect of running a business. With that being said, a ton of them can do better, right? And by that, I mean just understanding, I guess their biggest improvement point is really labor efficiencies and understanding basically how to manage labor and understanding and utilizing labor properly. That's where I've seen issues. A lot of our clients come to us and they're like, yeah, we build this, we do this. And we're like, okay, so how much time is this person spending on that account? We have no idea, right? Again, you don't need to track time, but you need to have some sort of guidance and understanding, what does this cost this guy? I'm paying this person 100 grand a year. Okay, then what type of work are they doing? How many billable hours should they be doing a week, a month, et cetera, right? And really fully utilizing that that time and getting that return on that employee.
How can you do that without tracking time, though?
Well, you can have, if you don't track time, it's much tougher, but you have to have, and we track time at Accountfully, and we're basically like you guys, right? We're doing a service. It's not as fun of a service, right? But it's a service. I really don't know how, to be frank.
Okay. Because I hear these people, and it's just like, we don't track time. It's like it's coming to the Zen garden, and things just appear. It's like,
well, that's what a lot of people come to us, and we work with them, and all of a sudden it's like, look, you're losing money, you're this and that, you're slipping, and they have really good years, and they don't focus on it. It's like, oh, this is easy, and also you go and you're like, yeah, well, we have yoga classes from Wednesday from 12 to 2 at the office. I'm like, who the hell wants to do yoga at the office with their coworkers? So I'm like, that's number one. Number two is like, you're paying this guy 120 grand and he's like billing 40% of his time and he's not doing any internal initiatives. What is going on here? And they're like, well,
it's a mean downward dog, bro.
Yeah. So, no, you need to track your time. Like 100%.
What tools do you recommend for it though? Because I mean, there's time tracking tools, and I guess the other side is forecasting. And I don't know if you get into any of that.
Yeah, we at Accountfully we use Harvest and then Forecast, basically, which ties into Harvest.
Right.
A lot of I recommend integrating it into your project management software. So like if you're going in to see your task and by project, you can easily track time in there. There's a ton of those apps out there that exist in this day and age. But it needs to be some way that it's easy for your team. It's not a hindrance. And then you can easily export data and manipulate it and see reports and able to kind of see the historical, right? And then in the future, forecast where people are at, right? And understand expectations by staff class, expectations by internal departments and things like that, right? So, if you're a retainer-based business, it is easy to forecast your business. Right. Mm-hmm. If you're like, okay, this is a $2,000 client, that's X number of hours a month. That is 60% of this staff class, 30% this staff class, 10% this staff class. Well, get a forecast software that then literally allows you to say client one, team member one, boom, boom, boom. Then you say, okay, this person, our staff, we need to have them set up at 70% per month or per week to do their job, right? And then the other 30% is the PTO, the internal work, the other things that are going on to, hit their rates. It's really not, if you're a project-based company, that's a completely different situation, right? Where you're, it's this and that, and that you sell more. So, having a mix of that project work, having a mix of that retainer work really helps out along the way too, as well as having, in the situation that's going on here, having a diverse client load across different industries, having a diverse client load across, locations, right? And on top of that, having a diverse client base that literally, like, maybe your highest client's 3% of your revenue. Is that possible? That's how you're going to minimize risk and really diversify along the way. So then if you have 10 clients leave, it's like, oh shit, but that's 11% of my revenue, and I can keep rolling. Whereas if you have 2 clients that take up 60% of your revenue, they both leave or reduce, you're screwed.
So would you say forecasting is a part of the best agencies that you've seen insofar as profitability?
Yes, I would say those that have something that's dedicated to the operations role, to kind of the overseeing project managers of the projects, are the best. Just because, again, they have the pulse on what's going on. They have the pulse on when I need to hire somebody. They have the pulse on, hey, we're too fat and happy because we lost some work. What do we do? They have the pulse on, hey, let's hire a contractor for the next couple of months because we just have this temporary need versus a full-time need until we get to that point. So those clients that are able to forecast and integrate sales to operations and what that means for labor are the ones that are gonna, be the ones that are standing at the end of the day.
Got it. And you recommend forecast. I remember looking at that years ago when they first launched it in a beta, and it just seemed like it was like, oh, this is something else I got to learn, and just didn't fit into the process. Is and that you personally use that in Accountfully?
Yeah, so we use Harvest and Forecast. So they basically tie together, and you can essentially put budgets by projects in Forecast and tag them to staff level, right? And then you can basically have alerts that essentially say, hey, using these numbers in Forecast, you can send alerts to things to our managers, or things that, hey, we're going over, we're going under, whatever. So it's great just because it's integrated in one. And then we use basically Asana for our task and project management. And then within Asana, you can track your time through Harvest. So you can click the start button, stop button, tag it to a client, tag it to a specific task. So that's basically what we've used probably the last 8 years, and it's just worked for us. I don't think it's set up great for us because our processes are relatively simple, because everything we do is weekly repeatable, check email, update QuickBooks, support, AR collections, pay bills. It's not like we're doing, hey, this client's super customized and do this website or this visual, right? It's very repeatable.
Production line.
Correct. Yeah, very much. It's, the assembly line. So it doesn't need to be crazy customized, where I know it doesn't work for some of the agencies and more the creatives where they need, a kind of a more enhanced solution along the way. I've seen MavenLink. I mean, when we started time tracking, I think the first time we were using MavenLink, this was like in 2013, but then we didn't like that. Now they have a new visualization or user experience, but yeah, we just went to Harvest and we've enjoyed it.
Yeah. And then forecasting, how far do you guys forecast out? Is that like 2-3 months? What's a good forecast measure so somebody knows how much work they need?
Yeah. I mean, minimum, it needs to be 90 days, right? I mean, depending upon the length of your contracts with your clients, hopefully they're indefinite, as indefinite as possible. And then, we basically stay up kind of 2 months when we're doing, so we review basically staffing capacity, every week. With clients, when we're working with kind of agency clients, we do say, like, let's try to get some hard forecasts the next 3 months, because that's what you need to make hiring decisions, right? So if you need to hire somebody, we all know you can't hire somebody in a day. It takes weeks and months to hire somebody good and then get them plugged in. And it's typically a 90-day window before somebody gets really, from starting interviewing to hiring, and actually kind of getting relatively plugged in. So you need to know that and know those items. And then you need to know what level of person you need, right? Is it a project manager? Is it more of a creative? Is it, whatever it is, a lower staff, a chief staff, maybe a manager at that point. So 90 days minimum, of that. So you need to understand your sales, understand what it means, understand your expectations from clients. And I think 90 days is a good starting point. I mean, perfect, it would be longer than that. But, if you're retainer based and you have good contracts and they're long, 90 days is sufficient, because you're like, hey, we're expecting to keep all of these. And all of a sudden, if they cancel, then that's a different conversation. But
or you're hit with the coronavirus, and you're like,
correct.
Oh, well, there went that workflow pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, a 6-month forecast is worthless because the coronavirus is right around the corner. A bus could run into your office. You could lose a key employee. I mean, I think you're wasting your time planning on what might happen 6 months down the road.
Yeah, I mean, we basically, the longest that I recommend my clients to kind of do cash flow forecasting and kind of a more tangible item is like 12 months, right? Whereas you have I'm raising money, I need a 4-year model. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing in the world. Like, I understand some people want to see it, but like, again, I think it's more of a checklist item for some investors to kind of say,
Sure.
hey, did you actually put some time into this? And actually, are you serious about this versus maybe even looking at it? Because we all know it's pie in the sky, and what does it really mean?
Right. Just whether you're willing to do the effort. Other than forecasting, what are some of the things that you see the most profitable, successful agencies doing?
I would say billing upfront for your service. So obviously cash is king. So don't wait to bill. Don't bill at the end of the month. Bill upfront if possible. Get on auto draft, whether it's credit card or just bank account upfront. The first of the month, just get that in place before you do work, right? You owe your employees during that month, so get paid before the month starts, right? So being timely on that aspect of the business and handling that along the way. I would say, other than that, from a labor thing, so managing your sales forecast, which we just talked about, understanding your capacity, your labor, really understanding and tracking their time, right, and supporting that. Getting paid. That's the basic. I mean, outside of that, like basic bookkeeping and everything else is relatively easy in the day and age we are. So, outside of people, getting money in, like, you have rent and a couple utilities and, dues and subscriptions and some meals, entertainment, like your overhead really isn't that much. So, or in terms of volume of transactions, right, to manage and understand where you're at. So, those are the key things. And then obviously keeping update with your books and just making sure that's in place and just understand what your break even is each month and, run it from there. So that's where a lot of agencies we have, like they don't work with us just because of bookkeeping, right? They work with us because of the advisory service of the kind of seeing KPIs and, the revenue per employee, average billable rate, utilization by staff class, things like that, which is kind of, reporting, which is more, but then it's saying, this is what this means. This is, sometimes look at those numbers, like, I don't know what that means, but that kind of CFO, COO kind of advisory that we do for our agency clients, basically it's exactly how we run Accountfully. So it's a, we're like, this is, typically how we see it here or there, but, basic bookkeeping with, autopilot on payroll, right? Like credit cards, like the bookkeeping aspect is so minimally value added, especially for retainer clients that set up their clients on auto draft. Then really, what is there for an accountant to do outside of, hey, he's reconciling my books, which is like an hour or two a month. So that's where we have to kind of do the advisory stuff, things like that. And that's where we can kind of help out and understand that type of stuff. But it's not rocket science, and I'm not trying to, not sell Accountfully. I don't, but it's you guys know, it's relatively simple until you get up to a point. When you get to 10 to 12 people, it's a little bit hard to manage, right? You get to multiple revenue lines or different types of revenue, project work, things like that, then that's where it gets more complex to kind of you really need that help along the way.
What is the strangest thing you've seen an agency try to write off, or any of your clients, where you're like, no, that's not going to happen, or maybe it did?
A boat to entertain clients in Charleston, right. South Carolina.
Really? Yeah, that's like the IRS red flag, right?
Yeah. I mean, what do you do, right? Like, okay, you can't write that out. Well, I think I can. Okay, that's fine. Like, and then we just go in the tax return and don't include, and they don't know. But it's like, come on, let's have some sense here. Let's not get too far. So that would probably be the one.
I did have somebody I knew in my past that wrote off an antique car, and he was challenged and explained that he got so many leads by going to car shows and having his car there that they did allow him to write off the expense of the antique car. And I mean, it sounds crazy to me, but I mean, I guess that's the same idea of a boat. Like, you can get business from it. So it's
yeah, and I mean, but that's what it goes like, to write off a car. Hey, that's 100% business use. Nah, probably not, right? But hey, I'm gonna wrap my car in a Accountfully logo. Okay, literally that's a walking ad. That's right. So I get that, right? So there is things you can kind of do, to make it weird or nuance and explain to the government accordingly, right? Like the one thing I will, or go ahead, David.
I was just gonna say, one thing people need to realize, though, that if they do that, and a coronavirus hits and your business runs on hard times, they're taking your boat. It's no longer a personal asset. It's the businesses.
Well, correct.
You're selling your house and living on the boat.
Yeah. There you go. On top of that, like this goes into like literally some people aren't going to be able to get the correct PPP amount that they should get or the correct EIDL amount that they should get because they're not running their business properly. They're trying to skirt the system. They're not paying unemployment. I'm not going to take any W-2 wages. I'm going to just take distributions so I don't have to pay self-employment taxes. Well, guess what? When shit hits the fan, then all of a sudden they're like, well, you don't have any documentation of you ever getting paid. What the banks, like, again, a banker doesn't understand small business. He's just looking at numbers and underwriting and spreadsheets and being like, I don't see you getting paid. Now you can't get paid. So, you know, as part of understanding your business, understanding your life, and you know, you need to be serious about it. You need to make sure that you're doing the right things. And a lot of, you know, I spoke at like a art studio here like a month or two, and a lot of people who are, you know, working full time and doing some art stuff on the side and want to kind of get to full time freelance and, you know, do that. And they're like, you know, what do you recommend, or how, you know, what do you give me some kind of thoughts or insights? And I'm like, well, there comes a point when it's no longer a hobby and it's serious. And when it gets to that point, then you need to run your business professionally. You need to run it properly, segment, you know, your bank accounts, ensure you're setting up properly with the tax perspective and tax agencies and paying in. And even though it sucks, but that's literally when you take things serious, you're actually, you know, you're professional about it, then I think you put more time and energy into it. And on top of that, then when these types of situations come up, you actually have documentation that people are like, oh, this is great. Or when you want to buy a house and they're like, well, you never claimed any money. Oh, right. Well, I made $100,000. I just spent it all. Okay, great. Sounds good. Well, you're not going to give me the house. So, you know, nobody likes the tax man, but, you know, doing it legit just makes you sleep better at night too.
Sure.
How about writing off your dogs as security?
It's not a bad idea. I think go to the office with you.
All right, just checking. Just, you know, I know a guy that's done it. That's why I was asking.
Everybody's done everything, right? Like, you know, we've seen it all. I mean, it's some of our clients have their like business and personal bank accounts and credit cards and QuickBooks now flow through. Then all of a sudden we're like, what is this? We're like, oh, that was that for this specific reason for the business, and that's why it's that. But the next one isn't, and it's like, you just quit fighting. You're like, okay, you know, you're the one that's signing off on this. You're the one that's your business. Like, if that's what you want, fine. Like, let's move forward.
And the date to file got pushed out, right? So you don't even have to file your extension now until June, correct?
Correct. July, actually.
July.
You don't even need to. You don't even need to file extension for now. And then if you want to file an extension to wait till October, then you have to file it by July. And most states have followed that guidance from the feds along the way with that. But I did see something today that said, you know, number one, if the stimulus check that the government's paying individuals is based upon either your 2018 tax return or your 2019 return. So if your 2018 return is really high, you may be phased out, but your 2019 is lower, you should get that filed as soon as possible. Additionally, if you're gonna get a refund from your 2019 return, you should file that as soon as possible so you have money in the short term. And then lastly, if you're gonna file for a business loan, like the EIDL loan or whatever, because the PPP loan isn't really based upon tax returns or income tax return, you know, and your 2019 looks great, then get it filed, because then you can say, hey, this is where I was at, this is where I was going, and now here's the economic injury that I've had. So don't just wait if literally, you know, just because the deadline's there. Understand, like, and use it to your advantage, and really look at 2018 versus 2019, talking with your, you know, your tax advisors, your accountants, or your finance advisors, or whatever, of kind of giving some advice on what to do.
Dig it. So what other advice would you give to an agency in the current crisis right now? You got get your PPL, file your loan if the EIDL makes sense. You know, furlough your staff if you have to, but if you're going to do the PPL, you might want to keep them on, you know, figure out what that mechanism looks like. Lower your expenses. Is there anything that potentially is an Accountfully secret that our audience hasn't heard in one of the damn emails they received, or the LinkedIn post up there that tell you, like, yeah, wash your fucking hands? Other than that, is there something that people should know?
I would say on the PPP side, that's completely high priority. get that form in, get the application in yesterday. Like there's zero reason to do that. Related to the PPP, make sure that a lot of people are like, I don't want to do it because I don't want my loan forgiven. And it's like, again, going back to our initial conversation, guys, it's 1% interest. It's like basically the freest money you'll get. So you can always pay it back if you want or whatever, but just understanding it's good to have cash. It's good to have a little safety net, and then just manage your cash the next 2 years appropriately. Outside of that, you need to understand how to utilize your labor properly. If you don't know how to, like, how busy or how fully utilized, or if you're getting, if you're labor efficient, getting the most return on your labor, your team, now is the best time, because literally you may be a 10-person shop, but you only need to be an 8-person shop. Well, let's figure that out and see what's, going. What else can you automate? What can you consolidate duties? What type of different services, on the DMG call last week or whatever, somebody was mentioning like, hey, you guys one of you guys like was saying, now we were offering this, right? Like now we need to get the coronavirus stuff on people's website or whatever, right? So like understanding things and being kind of seeing the opportunities there, but also like, am I too fat and heavy? Am I not, right? And really focusing on that aspect currently. And then outside of that, I would say, I had one more thing. Just be flexible, right? Like don't plan for the next 3 months, literally plan for the next week, have constant conversations with your leadership team, see what's going on and make a decision, every week or every day, right? Based on new information. Like one of the things that's driving me nuts about all this is everybody's like, oh, we're canceled till May or we're canceled till August. And I'm like, can't we just work like on a 2-week rolling period, like with new information and adjust, and instead of saying we're canceled through Thanksgiving? It doesn't make any sense to me. And like, again, because this is all new, there's no good models. We don't know what's going on, but don't make a decision now that's like, I'm going to do this next 3 months. Just hold tight for a minute and roll through on a day-to-day basis is what I would recommend.
Do you have any thoughts on how would you approach a agency's accounts receivable if they have, let's say, $50,000 that they know that their clients aren't paying? They're sitting on this, they're supposed to be getting paid. They're not going to get paid. They know they're not going to get paid for the next 2 or 3 months. Like, what can they do? Can they, I know they can't write it off, but I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
It's a great question. So number one, I would reach out to your clients, and if you don't accept credit cards, accept credit cards in the short term. Don't charge the fee. Just if they're like, hey, I'll pay via credit card, like eat it, take it. I'd go to your clients for the ones and basically say, hey, if you pay me this week, I'll give you a 5% discount, 8% discount, whatever you need to do to keep the money coming in the door. Maybe they're like, hey, this is great. I'll save some money on this. I'm going to pay it anyways because I have an existing relationship with somebody long-term here. And then outside of that, I guess 2 other things. Number one, set up your invoices moving forward to get paid in advance, right? Let's not do the work because of it. Again, I know you may want to keep your employees busy and staffed, and some of the work right now might be more flexible in terms of your agreed prices and things like that moving forward. But again, just don't do free work. And then lastly, there is still a ton of like AR, basically factoring or invoice factoring companies. You can even plug in right within QuickBooks, and you can say, hey, I have $10,000 of invoices, right? And you can go, boom, can I get some money? They may advance you $7,500 on it or whatever. I still think it's all dependent on those, but those, have
do you think those companies are still operating right now in the current environment? I feel like they're frozen.
Well, I think some of them are. Some of them are taking like Lendio, things like that. Like those fintech companies are trying to capitalize the shit out of this, along the way. But hey, if that's your last opportunity,
sure,
then that is what it is. But I think those are my kind of thoughts.
Yeah, Charlie Two Toes, the loan shark down the street, get you a little deal.
Exactly.
What?
Don't do that. Call up Jon Tsourakis if you need a loan.
And I'll help you however I can, because that's the kind of person I am. If Accountfully won't, Jon Tsourakis will.
Yeah, there you go. And outside of that, then look for other partnerships, opportunities, along the way. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like hopefully, and this is going to take people out of business, clearly, depending upon, the volume, the level, how long-term this is. But, a lot of people have built up a lot of equity in their business and created an asset. And if you just see some uneasy times and you don't see how this could work very well, or you don't see the long term, then that's when you start. That's what like these, you guys' DMG is you have these relationships and friendships where you can collaborate and talk, and maybe you're a great like partner to somebody else, and maybe they buy you, or maybe you guys go into partnership together. There's other things that you can do too that are creative, that are not normal, that may go against what you ever thought, but it'll keep you lasting longer and more indefinite, and that's much better.
Does Accountfully
everything out over there, Brad?
No, the Amazon guy is literally driving in my front yard.
There you go. Oh, we were just talking about Amazon at the top of the show.
See this guy? He's in my yard.
Oh, yeah. Do a donut. Spin them, brother. Spin them.
Unbelievable.
What's that time, sir?
I guess he doesn't want to get out of the car and touch our porch, but
yeah, it's true. Just gonna flick the package out. But no, I appreciate you mentioning that. Get creative, right? I see too many people that just lock up and they panic, and just whatever you can do to continually move that ball forward. It doesn't matter what success looks like, long as you get where you need to get, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big deal. Look for the other opportunities.
100%. And I mean, don't let a good crisis or a crisis go to waste, right? Like some clients have been, been cash strapped for years, right? And trying to get through, and maybe this just isn't for you, right? Like, and I'm not trying to be like, not everybody's made to be an entrepreneur or to do the specific business. Maybe your business model needs to change. Again, step back, take a deep breath, go for a walk, and really think it through and say, like, is this, it's highly stressful. So like, it's not easy for anybody, right? But, like it is a great opportunity to look at your model and say, hey, if we can get through this by tweaking and changing a model and doing that, then you can probably get through a lot of things if you can get through literally an economic stoppage for like 2 to 3 months.
Does Accountfully, get involved in any brokering there? Like, have you ever played matchmaker?
No, we, in the past when Accountfully was starting, when you're out like networking and, we can help do this and that. Like now we basically we stay in our lanes now from like those legal types of situations or, that type of work. We don't have the authority or expertise or time, or we don't even want to focus on that. I'd rather offload that to somebody that, can do that type of work.
I dig it. All right. So is there anything we didn't cover that the world should know?
No, I think we've covered it mostly. I mean, Accountfully's here to help you if you need anything.
There you go. This is your space now to pedal. So anything, feel free. This is your space. Is there anything that you want to pedal? Brad Ebenhoeh from Accountfully. Go for it.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like Accountfully is a fully outsourced accounting department for small businesses. We have clients that go from 0 employees pre-revenue to 50, right? So we can be here to support your bookkeeping, controller, advisory needs on a continuous basis. We provide weekly and monthly reports, and guess what? We're outsourced. We have a lot of people that I have an in-house accounting department. Well, that's not always good during a COVID crisis. Well, what if you just fractionalize that and pay somebody $2,000 a month versus $5,000 a month? So there's a ton more value that we provide than a lot of in-house people and things like that. So we have clients all across the nation. I mean, our website's accountfully.com. You can come and follow us and reach out to me, Brad at Accountfully. I can chat through kind of what your current situation is, how we can help, and we'd love to chat if that's an option for you.
That's a much better elevator speech. I'm proud of you. Good job.
The first one wasn't an elevator. It was an informational speech.
I know. Just giving you a hard time. I appreciate you being on, buddy. It's always a pleasure, man.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate that. And we'll see you guys soon.
Definitely.
Bye-bye.
All right, Dave. How do you think that went?
Brad has been a member of, full disclosure, Brad has sponsored DMG for the last couple of years. Met him 4 years ago. I want to say Fort Lauderdale. Do you remember when his first year was?
My memory doesn't work that way. I'm always
I don't know, but it was great. I mean, I enjoyed meeting him then. I've enjoyed seeing him every year at DMG. Since then, he's a tremendous asset to DMG. Being, look at the amount of detail he just provided about this the PPL, the EIDL. This is like some complex stuff, and he just brought a ton of value to our listeners listening to that.
It was cool is we in the DMG, as you know, we have right now we're doing a biweekly call. Typically, it's a monthly call where we get a topic together and a lot of members. But it's as if he became an expert overnight, and he knew everything that anybody else knew immediately based on the PPL and the EIDL and what they're funding. And he's been an asset continually educating all of us as well as his clients and everybody else on what's going on and what they can do.
I have to imagine he's going to get a ton of business from, rising to the occasion. I mean, there's it's
not from event marketing companies.
Yeah, it's tough out there for marketing, and he just was, a rock for a lot of people on. This is what you need to be doing. So it was really smart. Like,
and not a sandstone rock, a marble rock.
Yeah, and I'm not referring to this interview right here, but the DMG call that he pretty much was the showcase of, and it was just great. It was great information, and again, a lot of that was echoed in this interview right here for public listeners. So if you're looking for a group that brings that kind of level of expertise to your day to day, I mean, you got to be part of the DMG.
Yeah, this is the value that you're going to get out of it, of networking with the other people and just having the conversations that are the conversations you should be having is going to elevate your current stature in whatever it is that you're doing, if it's in the agency realm.
I did want to ask him that why he put his home office on the west side of his house when he's 2 blocks from the beach. And that sun kept creeping up, and I was like, oh, he's got about 20 minutes before he's just blinded. So that means his office is on the west side of his house.
That is an astute observation. I do love that Amazon dude. That's like those videos you see where like, hey, this guy, pissed on my bushes.
Right.
Dude driving on his front lawn, flicking packages out the window, like it's a hot potato. All right. Other than that, anything else we need to say to close up episode number 15?
I think it was another tremendous episode. Looking forward to the next.
Boom, boom, boom. All right, buddy. Thank you so much. And I'll see you real soon.
All right.